Welcome in. We are Under the Lights here, powered by DR Sports and the platform. Episode 4 of the podcast, talking high school football around the country. We've heard a lot about Florida and Georgia and Texas. It's only right that we bring our guy CJ Gilbert, Unlock Your Game, on to talk about his stomping ground of Alabama. We're excited for that. There's some ballers in Alabama. CJ, thanks for joining us here on the show. I know you've been looking forward to it. Me and Marc have been looking forward to it as well. How you doing, man? How's things going?
It's been great, man. We run Unlock Your Game, which is a sports media company based out here in Alabama. So we pretty much travel throughout the whole state. We're based in Huntsville, but we travel to Birmingham, our eastern parts of the state, in Calhoun County, Mobile, Montgomery, and even parts of Tuscaloosa too. So it's been busy. We've been doing a lot of things with, just not with business, but also with, just on the scouting aspect of it too. So we got a nice show for you guys. We got a top 5 teams in Alabama for you guys, and then some sleepers too that I've been keeping an eye on for not just this year, but for the past several years, because these guys are not only 25 kids, but some of them are even 26 kids. So I've been knowing some of these guys for quite some time on a personal level, not just on a scouting level. But yeah, we got some talent here, and I think last year kind of set us up to potentially be notarized as a top 5 state, not just around here, but nationally as well.
I love it, man. So you teased it a little bit. We're going to get your top 5 teams at Alabama, as well as some sleeper teams, some schools to look out for. It's hard to dwindle the list down to just 5. There's a lot of good teams in Alabama, but one player from the state that I want to talk about, he's an Auburn commit, and that's Alvin Henderson, man. He has been absolutely tearing it up. It would be hard to do what he's done over these last 2 weeks on a video game. Doesn't seem real, the kind of numbers that he's put up, man. What's going on with Alvin? What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, man, Alvin Henderson is not just only one of the best backs in Alabama, but he's one of the best backs, one of the best athletes in the nation. Really, last week he put up, like you said, Ben, some video game numbers. Had over 40 carries, 10 touchdowns, and almost 400 total yards. I'm like, wow. You can't do that even in your wildest dreams. So, and Alvin Henderson did it in one night, on one football night, on one fateful Friday football night. So, I mean, that matchup there, the score was I think it was the highest in Alabama State history for football for a total. It ended in 80-78. Mackenzie ended up winning that game 80-78, like I said. But the overall performance by the Auburn commit was undeniable. I watched this film. I've been watching this film for the last couple of years. Elba is one of those programs where they're on the cusp of winning the championship. They fell short this past year. They moved down actually to 1A football. So, I mean, they're a program that, outside of Alvin, you don't really hear much about them. Another kid that is his lead blocker that has a couple offers that I'll throw him out there, kind of as a sleeper. This is kind of off the cuff. Caden Atkins, number 10. He plays quarterback, linebacker. He can do a lot of different things. He's going to be probably more of a DN at the college ranks, at the college level. But he's a good athlete too. But Alvin is as advertised, man. Like, he does all the good things right. He takes all the direct snaps. Honestly, that is pretty much their offense. Like, if you go back and watch their his huddle tape, it's all direct snaps. It's either Alvin Henderson to the right or Alvin Henderson to the left, kind of deal. So, I mean, he's an athlete, and not just last year, not just last week that he put up video game numbers. This past week, this past Friday, or this past weekend, he put up 7 touchdowns. So overall, man, for the last 2 weeks, he's almost put up 800 yards and over 17 touchdowns. So that just goes to the testament of his game. He was actually last year's as far as touchdown record, he led it in the state of Alabama. So Alvin is as advertised, and Elba should be the favorites, the clear-cut favorites, with a talent like that to be the 1A state title championship contenders.
Well, we mentioned the top 5 teams. I think we'll start with some sleeper teams. Who are some teams maybe that didn't make the list, but you should know about?
I like you, man, because I was like, I need to get this top 5 in order. But there's a lot of teams out there that I feel like are sleepers, and I mean, I really get into it. As far as overall classification, I'll start with this. Jackson Aggie football is a 4A program. They have a kid named Landon Duckworth that he was a South Carolina commit. He decommitted. He's a Power 5 kid. They've beat 2 7A programs. So 7A is the largest classification in the state of Alabama. So for a 4A program, which is the third or the fourth smallest in the state, to beat a 7A program, they just beat Baker. That is a pretty good program. Should go to the playoffs in that region, and they beat them 20-13. They beat another team, Fairhope, in the spring jamboree pretty decisively as well. So their season got cut short last year. They had aspiring hopes to win a 4A state title last year. They are the clear-cut favorites, and not just in 4A, but they can potentially compete in higher classifications. So there are a sleeper team that most, your national audience might not know about that team. They might know about Landon, even Xavier Crowell, which is a 4 or 5-star running back as well. So they have a lot of guys that are 4 stars or higher. Demarion Gordon, which is a UCF commit. They got plenty of guys that are going to be next level type guys. So that's probably my premier sleeper team, just because they won't make this list just because of sheer numbers, because I don't think they will beat like a Saraland or a Parker, because they didn't beat Saraland. They actually lost to Saraland by less than a score, I believe. So if I can go back and check that one real quick. But that team is definitely a team that I would say is a premier sleeper team, because you won't hear about that team in the state of Georgia or North Carolina or Texas or anything. You'll hear about Central Phoenix. You'll hear about Auburn. You'll hear about Hoover. You'll hear about Thompson. You know what I'm saying? But you won't hear about Jackson Aggie football. So I will give my head nod to those guys and that style of football, because they're going to be legit. Another program that I will give out here is Hoover. Hoover has done it might sound a little funny, but Hoover has done a tremendous job with being competitive this year. If you don't know, they lost their head coach due to some some on the field activities. So it was kind of a little rough start to the season, but ultimately those guys have competed to the highest degree. They beat a team on the road in Florida.
Western.
Yeah, they beat a team on the road to Florida, like you said, Ben. And really, that was kind of like the set the tone type of game. Had a punt return and then set up kind of like the field goal to win it. So Hoover has this one QB that I've known for a while, and this leads me right into my sleeper players. Mac Beeson, class 2025 quarterback. He's been doing a tremendous job. Transferred in this past year to be the starting quarterback for Hoover. And man, he's taking this program with stride with everything that's been going on. I'm very happy and proud the way that he's led this program, because last year they had some issues at the quarterback position too. Jonah Winston had to step in at quarterback last year, and they got bounced second round. So I mean, this time they still use Jonah in like a wildcat type system, because he scored the 1 yard touchdown to kind of get them back in the game, because they only beat Hewitt-Trussville, which is another good program in that region, only 8-7 in the rain. So I mean, it was a tightly contested game. I actually had Hewitt winning that game because of just all the the things that's been going on at Hoover. But overall, I'm very proud of this Hoover group, because Hoover is not just a statewide brand, but it's a national brand.
Yep.
So they do things to the nth degree, and just that quarterback, Mac Beeson, class 2025 guy, to lead that group along with a couple other guys on the offensive side of the ball. And the trench work, honestly, has been a key factor in their wins, because they've been getting a lot of push up front, and that's a testament to how they do in 7A ball. So Hoover's a sleeper team. I think they can really compete for a 7A state title. They play Thompson later on this season, later on in October. So we'll see. I don't think that region is the best region. I'll get into that when we get into the top 5 teams and why I feel like that. But Hoover is definitely a sleeper team.
All right, Mark, it's about that time. Let's get CJ in a little trouble here. Let's go. Let's hear it. Let's start at the top. Let's go to 5 and then work our way down. So let's put you on the spot here. Top 5 teams in Alabama. Who you got?
All right, so you want me to start bottom at the 5 and then work my way up?
Yeah.
All right, so this is probably gonna get me in some trouble right off the bat.
It.
I have Saraland at 5. So if you don't know, Saraland just won 6A, or they just lost to Clay Chalkville, 6A state title. So obviously Ryan Williams is not there. The 17, we keep hearing on college football all the time. The 17-year-old does this. The 17-year-old does this. He's that special of a player, of course. But they do have other guys. CJ Gilbert, kind of like a slot guy, number 2 guy, really good guy. I think that's honestly KJ Lacey's right-hand man in this whole operation as far as like trying to get back to a state title. Dylan Alfred, the Ole Miss forward, 4-star commit. He's a good player. I think he did pretty good this past game. And then, of course, KJ Lacey, the Texas commit. So, I mean, those guys are a trio, not to mention Sante McWilliams, the running back that doesn't get enough love, junior actually. He's about 5'9", 5'10", but he's a bowling ball, man. He's hard to bring down. When they beat Mountain Brook 2 years ago in the state title, I feel like he was one of the key factors in that game outside of your normal KJ Lacey and Ryan Williams. So they're my number 5. Number 4, I would say Parker. They're a 6A program as well. So I think Parker is a little bit better than Saraland right now. We'll see how it goes. If you don't know, Naeem Offord is one of the best pure athletes. He's going to be a corner at the next level, but pure athletes in the nation. So he's been doing this thing along with Timothy Merritt, which is kind of, you know what I'm saying, he's played corner a little bit, and he's moved in at quarterback due to injury of the quarterback right now. I have to get into that a little bit later. But overall, I think this Parker group has an elite level defense that can really stop anybody, the best of them, honestly, in 6 and 7A. They got Jordan Crawford, Auburn commit, and then they got Vodney Cleveland that transferred in from Prattville. That is a really good specimen. So you can just imagine you got Vince Wilfork, and then you got Gerald McCoy on the same football team. You know what I'm saying? Like it's crazy. Like you have to go look up them guys. You know what I'm saying? So Vodney Cleveland, like I said, he's a class 2026 guy, and Jordan Crawford is class 2025. So those 2 guys are heavy in the trenches, and they have some speedsters. Chase Sparks is a running back that I feel like doesn't get enough love. He's the class 2026 guy, I believe. So he scored a touchdown in his latest game. And then they got a guy that I really like that's a bruiser of a running back, Terrence Gaines Jr. So they got different pieces to the puzzle to compete. So they're my number 4. They would kind of be that team that I would say are the favorites right now in the state of Alabama by a lot of people, not just myself. But I feel like until someone proves that they can stop them in the state, they're probably the favorites. Then we get up to our 7A classifications where I feel like, these are the teams that are the best. Thompson, if you don't know Thompson, Trent Seaborn, I don't know what you're doing in high school football in general. The eighth grade phenomenon that won a state title back in 2021. That team has the only loss that they have is to Grayson. And we know Grayson is a powerhouse in the state of Georgia. That's the only loss. Everybody else, they kind of, did what they were supposed to do to them. That would be my number 3 team. The only thing I have with Thompson is I haven't seen really any type of explosive plays out of their receivers. For the last 2 seasons, they had a guy named Kobe Landrew, which moved to Georgia. He's more of a basketball player, so he moved to Georgia for a better opportunity. And then the year before that, they had Mr. Football, Ryan Peppins, which plays collegiate level ball now. But I don't feel like they have anybody that is going to be substantial enough to kind of compete with these other top 2 teams that are in different regions in 7A. So my number 2 team for right now, my number 2 team is Auburn. I really like Auburn this year. I think they're a really good team. They've dominated a lot of teams, a lot of good teams, to be honest with you. Enterprise is a good team. Yeah. They had Auburn commit Eric Winters that's been there for a long time. He's more of an athlete. He plays safety. And then they had Zion Grady, which is a defensive end that is really good. Transfer from Charles Henderson. And just overall, that team was a statement win for Auburn, as well as Opelika. Opelika is a rivalry game, which I feel like Opelika has not made the playoffs. So that's another sleeper team. I just throw that in there because I'm not probably going to talk about them. But Opelika is another sleeper team that in that region too, they can compete with anybody. And I feel like that is the best region in football. You have Central Phoenix, which is number 1. I'll go ahead and tease that out there. But you got Central, you got Auburn, you got Opelika, and I believe you got Carver and Enterprise. That is 5. That's 4 or 5 good teams that can make the playoffs, and only 4 can make it. So, and most of those teams are either undefeated or they got one loss, and the one loss is to that inner circle of teams that I just said. So it's going to be a tight race when it comes down. And like I said, my number one team is Central Phoenix. That's really that's in Rico and Jeremy in them area.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they literally just won a 7A state title. They have one of the best receivers in the state, Dylan Upshaw, a quarterback that is really underrated. And overall, I just feel like this team, they have some defensive guys that are really, really good. But overall, it all funnels back to their coaching staff. Coach Nix is a wonderful coach. He's a great coach, and he really gets the best out of his guys. They got a lot of other guys on that staff that are really, really good. And so does Auburn, though. That's why I like that. I like that Auburn team. They got a coach named Coach Etheridge, and he actually comes from the kind of like the Oxford Calhoun County area, and he's coached in other areas too, but he's more known for Oxford. But that matchup between Central Phoenix and Auburn is going to be one to watch. I believe that Auburn. I think Auburn's this is their year, though. I'll give them that.
All right, well, we put you on the spot there. You rose to the occasion. I knew you would. But I did that. There was a couple of reasons why I did that. Honestly, we wanted to see what teams you had on the top 5, but also we wanted to set you up to be able to promote your brand because you're all over the state of Alabama, man. You do an awesome job. And, I think Marc can attest to this. We've seen you over the past couple of years. You have a passion for it, unlike a lot of people in this. And hearing you talk, that really came out. So I want to give you an opportunity here because we didn't really let you dive into it, but talk about yourself a little bit, your background, kind of how you got into this. Obviously, you're from Alabama, but your brand, Unlock Your Game, does a lot for athletes in the state of Alabama. So just give us a little insight to yourself, how you kind of got into sports media, and then talk about your brand as well.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Like I said, man, this has been a building process for myself. We've been in business 8 years now. And really, before I say anything else, it's been a joy this year, unlike a lot of years, because if building businesses, it's not always fun. It's not always easy. It's not always pretty. When the kids see me, I think that gives me the most joy in the world because, overall, them seeing me or them, appreciating what we bring to the table is paramount for me because a lot of days it's hard to kind of get on the road sometimes, and what I'm saying, y'all know how it is, what I'm saying, like just traveling, trying to think of different ways to better your situation in the state or even what I'm saying on a personal level. So just overall, just the thoughtfulness, the process that goes into some of these programs when they appreciate you for coming, or the kids taking time to not only hit you up for pictures or videos, but to just thank you for just what I'm saying, being there. So I think that is a good thing that I get a chance to experience on a time to time basis. But overall, man, what we do, like I said before, we're a sports media company in the state of Alabama. So we provide photos, videos. We're doing docuseries with 2 different schools this year, Tuscaloosa County and Oxford High School. So if you haven't watched our docuseries Locked In, it's a treat for you to watch for any high school football fan out there. So like it's basically the HBO Hard Knocks or a quarterback for high school football. So we get a chance to dive in deep, talk ball with coaches, interview players. This year I'm more than last year. We got a chance to do it with Southside Gaston, which is they were a 5A program last year, but this year they're a 6A program. So the coach that was the head coach of Southside, he moved to Tuscaloosa County, and that was they're in the same region as Thompson. So it's a little rough start right now for that program. They have some kids in there that I feel like are in the class 2026 year that I feel like can be special. This one running back, he's had, I think, close to 6 or 7 touchdowns, and we're just in the week 4. So he's been doing pretty good on the ground. Can catch some screen balls, taking the distance and stuff like that too as well. But overall, that team is kind of, ran to the forces of, your Hoovers and Thompson. So they're not as good as those teams yet, but just an interesting dynamic to kind of, capture that story because I've been so close to Coach Holcomb and that staff for a minute. So just to kind of, be there, brothers in arms, get those kids on board to what we do and things like that. Just, hyping them up on the sideline. I remember I was back there August 23rd, and literally I was just as juiced as the kids was to kind of, get back to some football. So to see that kind of light up on their face, and just overall, I like to be in the thick of it. I like to be in the trenches with them. I think that's one thing that with the brand, man, we're in the trenches. Like, there's a lot of different, media companies or personal brands that, kind of do sports media around in the state of Alabama. But I will say one thing, or the thing that is different about Unlock Your Game, is that we care for your kids. Like, we really do. And it's not a cliche thing. Like, we will take the time to get to know your kid. We'll get the time to know, who's in the community. Even the one, the fan that, been there since 1996. You know what I'm saying? Like, we'll get a chance to really get to know that kid, and they'll get not just know Unlock Your Game, but they'll get to know CJ Gilbert. I think that's the main thing that is different about a lot of them brands than Unlock Your Game. They get to know the owner. They get to know who runs the brand on a personal level, and know that we care about that particular program, who we're working with, and those athletes to make it to the next level. So that is a thing that I'm more than happy to serve, and I feel like that's the reason why we're getting so much love on the back end and on the front end about what we're doing for Unlock Your Game and the kids.
I love it, man. I love to see it. It's been fun to get to know you over the last couple of years and watch your journey as well. I know when we started this show, it was a no-brainer. We were trying to come up with guests to come on, and I said, "Oh, we got to get CJ on, man." So I'm glad you were able to work us in, and you were able to come on and talk with us. We talked a lot about Alabama. I think it's time to transition to Texas. CJ's done a lot of talking. We got to let him get some water or something, and we'll go to Marc now. Some marquee matchups once again in the DFW area. Go figure. You had some big ones, so break it down for us. I know you weren't able to be on the sidelines, but it seems like you did a lot more film study and were able to cover a lot more games that way.
Absolutely,
Hope you're
man.
feeling better, by the way.
Yeah, man. Maintaining this is what it is. The grind don't stop, though. You know what I'm saying? But the big game that everybody wanted to see was Denton coming into North Crowley. After the big win over DeSoto, 57-51 the previous week. So if you pay attention to social media, shout out to my guy Coach Ray Gates. If you pay attention to social media, so Monday morning the guys come into practice and there was a trap. Like, don't get this is a trap game, and he had all of the sayings, hey, you're the best, you're this, that you're you guys are number one in the country now. He made sure that this wasn't a trap game to his team, and so the big thing this week was they didn't want to stumble or fall off, based on momentum from that particular game or have a letdown. Well, definitely it wasn't that. They came out, they took the kickoff, and it was up from there. They took care of business 49-28
Wow.
over a very, very good Denton team. But North Crowley is one of those teams that's trending right now. They're starting to get some buzz nationally now. I think they're ranked in the top 20 in the country now. Took care of business 49-28, but I want to talk about Quentin Gibson. He has been a monster the first three games. He's taken off. He's one of those guys that can fly. We're talking about a guy that's probably 10-4, 10-300, savvy route runner as a receiver. But when he gets it, it's another gear. And this guy is really taking off this first week of the season. We're talking about offers from Colorado State, Incarnate Word, Nevada, SFA, Texas State, all in the last 2 weeks. But he had a monster game again this week. 4 touchdowns, 253 yards. Quentin Gibson has 11 touchdowns in 3 weeks.
Wow.
11 touchdowns in 3 weeks. When he gets the ball, he's electric. And he turned up this week as usual. He's going to be a guy going forward that, college coaches are already, I'm sure Coach Gates' phone hadn't stopped ringing since game one. But he's been that guy that's taken over. And then you have to talk about the play of Chris Jefferson Jr., the North Texas commit, 3-star quarterback. He's the general. But that offensive line up front is very good as well. And these guys have taken that next step to showing early in the season that they're going to be a team to be reckoned with. So shout out to North Crowley for taking care of business. Now, it's not over for them. They got to face Rockwall this week on the road.
Man.
So that's another thing. It doesn't get easier for these guys. They haven't lost a regular season game in 3 years, counting this year. The only two losses in Coach Gates' 3 years has been there have been in the playoffs. One to Duncanville in the semifinals, and the previous year, I think they lost to Prosper. So they are a team that's trending as a program. They're doing big things over there, and this is the reason that these guys are on their way. I think that they continue to do what they need to do this week against Rockwall, and then they go into district. Now, we always as fans and prognosticators look for things to go forward. And the big matchup is will they make it to see Duncanville later on in the rounds, which would probably be a fourth or fifth round matchup. But right now, North Crowley is probably one of the hottest teams in the state of Texas, probably in the country right now. They should definitely probably be, if not number one, number two in the state when the rankings come out this week. But a big victory over a very good Denton Guy team that features Kevin Sperry, who is a Oklahoma commit. And then on the guy side, there was another player that I really liked this week was Mason White. He caught 2 touchdowns, over 145 yards. I think he really made a statement as one of those guys that's going to be a featured guy for Guy this year. But Kevin Sperry played well. But just when you let North Crowley get on that roll, and when you let these guys get rolling, they're going to be hard to stop. You know what I'm saying? So I think that they're probably one of the best offenses that you're going to see on display. And of course, Daniel Bray and Cornelius Warren the third did their thing as well. But you got to talk about Quentin Gibson. He's probably one of the hottest prospects in the state in the last 2 weekends for sure. The other big game in the Metroplex this week was Duncanville welcoming in National Power St. Francis,
Hmm.
and it was a very close game. But CJ, you'll like this. Keelan Russell, 5-star commit. Uh, he was a man. You know what I'm saying? And he really, I think this is going to be the year. Looking at this game, I think this is going to be the year where things are going to be squarely on Keelan's shoulders. He really set the tone, and also I think what St. Francis' game plan was to go in and take out Decorian Moore,
Hmm.
because Ace and Theus and Zachary Turner really stepped up to make big plays in this game. There was a 60-yard bomb over the top where you saw Keelan Russell kind of navigate the pocket and hit Ace and Theus over the top. Zachary Turner caught the winning touchdown to give him the victory, 28-24. So they tried to take away Decorian Moore, but now the game plan is going to be who do you do? What do you do with these other two guys? They really set the tone. St. Francis had a violent pass rush that really made, things difficult for Russell. But this is where you saw him get outside the pocket, use his feet. He also had a rushing touchdown. There's a reason that he's the Elite 11 quarterback MVP this year, that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the state. And there's a reason that Alabama's, ready to get this guy on campus. He really showed his wear this week in leading them to a big victory. Now, this week, they got Waxahachie coming up, who
Hmm.
also had a big victory over Forney on the road, 37-34. But I'll talk about Waxahachie in just a minute. But the other big game, Ben, that I had my eye on was Atascocita. They went on the road to play Austin Westlake in
Hmm.
Austin Westlake, snapped a 44-game home losing streak, and they get the victory 39-21. I talked about Corday Mack the week before. He's that guy. He's a guy that's really a highly rated running back, but he's been playing some quarterback for those guys, and he really set the tone with his ability to make plays in the running game and the passing game. And they go down and beat Westlake, who hadn't lost at home since 2015
Wow.
in their house. And you know that Austin Westlake's tough to beat at home, a state ranked team. So you should see Atascocita vault up the state polls here this week. But them going on the road and taking care of business was what I wanted to see, and that's why I kind of had my eye on this game. If they're going to be state contenders, they have to show that they can go on the road and do it, and they did it. Shout out to Coach Stump and those guys. But hey, in that part of the town, you know where you have to go with it. That was a statement game for now. But looking ahead, they have to get by North Shore. That's been their Achilles heel the last 4 or 5 years, and that's a district game as well. So I think that they showed that they have something to say when it comes to being a state ranked team, and something to say when they match up with Atascocita. But also in that district, they have to play Sea King. They also have to play humble Summer Creek, which went to state and lost to DeSoto. But those are the 2 games, 3 games that I have my eye on for sure. But before I get out of here, I definitely have to mention Waxahachie, 37-34 victory. The big recruit or the big prospect in the state of Texas this weekend, outside of Quentin Gibson, was Cohen Brown. We had a chance to see Cohen Brown with Wall Street. Shout out to Coach Wise. Cohen Brown had a monster game. He had 6 catches for over 200 yards. And listen, he's a guy that runs 10-7, 10-6. They've been waiting to see this guy. And he also plays on the other side of the ball. So he's really an athlete. But he picked up Ole Miss this weekend, UCF, BYU, all on between Saturday and Sunday, and UTSA. Wow. So Cohen Brown is one of those guys that you're going to start to hear about. Monster game. His quarterback, Jeremiah III, a sophomore, who's been playing outstanding as well. And they get the big victory. The reason I brought up Waxahachie is because they face Duncanville this week. And that's the big game for me that I'll be having my eyes on as the District of Doom cranks up.
All right, I love it. Let's go to Georgia now. I got the chance. I've been spending a lot of time up in Georgia. Last week I went home, got to see some Kentucky and Ohio matchups, a team from West Virginia as well. But back in Tallahassee this week, and I got the chance to go up to Colquitt County, to Moultrie, Georgia. 2 tough teams in South Georgia, Lee County, Colquitt County. Lee County came out on top 47-35. Trojans, man, they look like a team that can make a deep playoff run. They've got a tough one ahead, Thomas County Central in 2 weeks. The platform, we just might have to pull up to that one. Colquitt County, of course, they're always solid. They've had some great teams over the last decade plus, but they lost a lot from last year's squad. We'll get to Colquitt County here in just a minute. Let's look at some standouts for Lee County. I was eager going into this game to see Usman Croma, one of the top 20-25 running backs in the country. But I thought Colquitt County did a good job containing him as best as they could. He ended up finishing with no rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown. I'd say right around 100 yards. He did break a couple first down runs, but no really explosive plays. Got free for a big conversion when Lee County needed it. He lined up out wide at receiver, made it look easy on a completion, just kind of showing his range, what he can do. He's tall for a running back, guys. I'd say he's about 6 feet, maybe a little bit taller. Has kind of a wiry frame, wiry build. He looks like a receiver. He can definitely line up out there and make you pay. I think wherever he ends up going to school, now Auburn's high on him, Florida State, Georgia, all on his radar. They'll kind of use him in a hybrid type role because you can see that athleticism that he brings. But eager to see what he's able to do in a couple weeks against Thomas County Central. So you're probably wondering, if it wasn't Croma doing all the scoring, how did Lee County get those 47 points? Well, quarterback Weston Bryan stole the show. 5 total touchdowns, I believe, for him. 3 on the ground, 2 through the air. Didn't have to throw it a whole lot in this one, the Georgia Southern commit, but he impressed me with his ability to mix it up. He wasn't just carrying the ball. He was running with a purpose, welcoming any and all contact. He wanted all the smoke, guys. It was hard to stop that 1-2 punch, especially when the Trojans, they would come with Croma. Croma would get 6-7 yards. And they no huddle, quick to the line, run it with Bryan. So that was tough to stop. I think it kind of caught Colquitt County off guard. I'm not sure if Lee County does that all the time. This was the first time I've seen them, but intrigued to see if that's kind of how they operate and how that works out here in a couple weeks, because that's going to be fun. I'm hoping I can make it up for that one. Then we've got one more Lee County player I wanted to highlight. He's a 2027 linebacker, Gregory Batson Jr. So this sophomore, he's been a stat stuffer this season so far, linebacker for the Trojans. I believe through three games, he was averaging double-digit tackles. A little under his season average maybe in this game, but he made plays when it mattered the most, including a huge 4th down stop, some other nice plays as well. He's going to be phenomenal as he continues to develop. He's already getting some college attention and interest, and I expect that recruitment to explode here in the coming months because he's definitely got it. Can cover a lot of ground at his position, has a nose for the football, and when he gets a hold of you, he ain't going anywhere. All right, Colquitt County. So this was, it looked early on. So, and CJ, you can attest to this. You know, when you're filming a game, you want to be in front of the action, right? So you always want the action to come to you. Well, I mixed it up a little bit this week when I went, and you can see that in the highlights that you're about to see on the screen. So it was a narrow field, man. I was tired of trying to go back and forth. So I just stayed at one spot and let Lee County come to me, you know. So, but that also provided me with that angle where I'm behind Colquitt County. So usually, you know, players get in your way. You don't have a great shot when you're behind like that, but it worked out. I think it worked out pretty nice. Probably not going to do it ever again, but for this one moment, it worked out pretty well. So you'll see that here in these highlights, the 2-headed running back monster, Ty Javian Lamar and Deshaun Brown. Brown finished with 2 touchdowns, had numerous dazzling runs where he broke tackles, got to the second level to show off his speed. Absolute weapon for Colquitt County. I think he's only scratching the surface so far this season. I hope he's healthy this senior season because he's special. And then his counterpart, 2026 running back Jay Lamar, he's been getting some recruiting buzz lately. I think that's only going to continue. He just recently picked up an FSU offer. He had a run in the game, though, and this is where the whole camera thing comes into play, because I think if I was in front of it, I wouldn't have been able to see the action as much. So he takes it to the left side. He gets bottled up. There's 2 defenders there. He's about to get tackled, and then he bounces the run out to the opposite side, takes it all the way up the sideline. Nobody even close to catching him. And that's the play right there where I'm kind of like, okay, made my mouth drop a little bit, kind of showed, what he's able to do with the ball in his hands. Keep an eye on him. I think he's going to continue to climb in the recruiting ranks. But these 2 very important for Colquitt County's success. The Packers are 2-2. However, I'd say they're probably one of the best 2-2 teams in Georgia, if not the country. And it's interesting when you look at kind of the dynamic of this team and how they're formed, because they have a freshman at quarterback, 2028 QB Cohen Lawson, started for Colquitt County. I liked what I saw, though. He's poised. He does not look like a freshman at all. They got down. They had some uncharacteristic penalties, some uncharacteristic turnovers. There were a couple bad snaps that led to fumbles that were recovered by Lee County, things that weren't his fault, but he didn't get down on himself and continue to be a leader for his team. And, it wasn't just Lamar and Brown handed off. Lawson made plays. There was a play late in the game. They needed to pick up a first down. He had a nice scramble. He got away, converted a crucial third down. And he made some solid throws, too. Had one throw that should have been a touchdown. Receiver got stopped a couple yards short of the end zone. But used a nice pump fake to bring the defender down and then had his receiver wide open. So I'm interested to see what Cohen Lawson can do as his career progresses. I was very impressed with him. And before we go into your all's player standouts, if you guys have any more players you want to promote, I want to go back to Kentucky because this kid, he put Boyle County on the map. So you don't hear a whole lot about Kentucky teams being in the top 25.
Take me back, Dan. Take me back.
Football rankings. Yeah, you don't hear a lot. So Montaven Keesenberry, man, Boyle County, Kentucky. The Rebels went up to Ohio, St. Edward, and knocked off Ohio's top-ranked team a week ago, 38-21. Not just a dub, guys, a 17-point dub over the number 1 team in Ohio. I love it. Boyle County putting Kentucky on the map. I think they were up to 14 in one poll this week. So, again, you don't usually see Kentucky schools in those rankings unless it's a private school like Louisville Trinity. But Boyle County, man, they've really became a dynasty. I think they've won like 4 or 5 straight championships, probably on pace to win another one. 4A is kind of tough in Kentucky. You got Corbin and a couple other schools, but Boyle County's good, and a big reason why is Keesenberry. He's a West Virginia commit. I know Mark Stoops and Jeff Brom are probably kicking themselves for not keeping him in state, but he went crazy against St. Edward. 25 carries, 141 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Then he throws 2 passes for 89 yards and a touchdown. Oh, yeah, and he plays defense too. 4 tackles and an interception. He returned the pick 70 yards. I got to see him in person last year at the state championship. It was a 41-0 win in the state championship. There you go. That kind of speaks to Boyle County's dominance over Covington Catholic. But, yeah, impressive career at Boyle County. I had to give him a shout-out because we've got Kentucky on the map, guys. Went into their trap, took over the trap up there in Cleveland. So that's big time. Big time for Boyle County, baby. So that's all I got this week. I know, CJ, Mark, you guys might have a couple more standouts that you guys want to mention. So we'll start with you, CJ. Who are some other maybe sleeper players that you want to highlight and shout out here on the show before we sign out?
Yeah, I got you. One question: where are those teams located in the state? Like top corner, bottom corner, right above Tennessee? Like where are they at?
Boyle County is central Kentucky. It's Danville, so it's close-ish to Lexington, probably 40 minutes or so. And St. Edward is in Cleveland, and then Georgia, the Georgia teams. Lee County, and Colquitt County, they're southern Georgia.
Okay.
So I would say southwest-ish, south central.
Okay.
So you got Moultrie and Leesburg. That's where those 2 are from.
Gotcha. All right. So really my sleepers. I'm gonna just talk about the matchups I got from last week and then what I got going forth this week, and I'm gonna throw a team out there. First of all, my team that's a sleeper team in 6A, Spain Park, which is in Hoover, like it's in the city of Hoover. So they got a quarterback named Brock Bradley, class 2026 guy. guys, Texas A&M, UAB, I think he just committed to Clemson, actually, for real. But overall, he's a really good quarterback. Spun it against Hoover, beat Hoover. And that was a big game for Spain Park. They have now kind of, that would be if Parker wasn't number 4 in the top 5 teams in the state. That is my next 6A team right there. Like, I feel like they're a really good 6A program. They have not won a state championship or a state title yet, ever. And I think that this is the year that if Parker kind of slips or Spain, this whole Saraland thing kind of, is too much with Ryan Williams, with the KJ Lacey thing and everything that I just told you about, that is a team that is a full thoroughbred team on the cusp of winning the state title. So I think they're really good. And they got a two backfield, CJ Cowley, which is not a sleeper, but he's so young that you wouldn't even know about him, and he's competing at a high level. So he has, Power 5 offers he has your lower tier offers like Troy, UAB, and stuff like that. Then Dakari Shank, he's a actual Troy commit. So they have a really good squad. As far as a real sleeper, Susan Moore, really a program that they are a 2A program. They got this one kid named Samuel Garrison, and literally, this is the first time ever I've been to a Susan Moore football game. So I was the videographer for West End football, and Susan Moore had a quarterback that carried the ball 23 times, had 305 yards, 4 touchdowns, 23 passing yards for 1 touchdown, and he's only a freshman, and he looks like he could be a senior, like class 2028. So I had a chance to talk to Coach Patterson, and he was like, dude, we got a dude now. He's number 7. I was like, Coach, I done peeped him out. Like, he thick. Like, he looked really good. Like, he nice. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he went out there and balled out. So, like I said, I just wanted to give him a nod because that's a true sleeper. Like, that's a guy that you're not even going to – I promise you, this is the only conversation you're going to ever have about Susan Moore football. Like, I promise you. You're never going to hear about Susan Moore football. You're probably not going to hear about Samuel Garrison outside of me. So, that is a true identifiable sleeper. My other guys in Oxford. So, like I told you before, we're doing a locked in series with T County, and we're doing one with Oxford. So the big level guys that is on that team, 4-star quarterback Mason Mims, Louisville commit. That's in your neck of the woods, Ben. So if you don't know, you know what I'm saying? He is he's going to be an alum there. So I mean, Mason Mims, he's a quarterback that is really, really nice. I think where his game is the best is kind of when he's kind of off platform and kind of could, get the ball downfield to his receivers. He's a very cerebral guy. They got a good quarterback coach, Coach DeRamus. I've known him for at least 2 years now, at least maybe a year and a half. But they became a really dynamic duo as far as like coach and player. And that whole coaching staff is really, really good. They've been good to me so far, and I expect it to never change, to be honest with you. The sleepers, and then of course Keenan Britt, KJ Britt's younger brother, who has played at Auburn, and then he played for the Buccaneers. Keenan Britt is a 4-star, kind of like a hybrid linebacker / DN. He gets a lot of, those dirty, grimy type plays, sacks. He's very quick, to be honest with you. Like, he's undersized for a defensive end. That's why I think that they're probably going to try to shift him to maybe like a stand-up outside backer, or maybe even inside backer. He's a South Carolina commit. So those two guys are kind of like my headliners at Oxford. But the sleepers, I feel like on that team, Caleb Wynn and Jalen Taylor. Caleb Wynn is a class 2026 running back, thick guy. Like, he's a really stocky guy. Like, he's built like Todd Gurley, to be honest with you. He looks like Todd Gurley in pads. He can run like Todd Gurley. He can catch out the backfield too. He can run through you, truck you, do whatever he has to do to get that touchdown. The game I had a chance to go see them and be a part of their program for the locked in was against Shays Valley. Shays Valley has some nice talent, to be honest with you. But it was the second half that determined that outcome of that game. And like I said, Caleb Wynn was a part of that success. And Jalen Taylor, I know that Caleb Wynn is going to probably be like a if I were to put him in, he's not, I don't know if he'll be power 4 quite yet, but I know for sure he'll be an FCS level type player. Maybe even a lower tier D1, like a UAB, JSU, somewhere off in there, Sanford, something like that. But Jalen Taylor is going to be, he's a class 2026 receiver. He's going to be the next, he's going to be a power 4 kid out of Oxford. Usually, like I just named Mason Mims and Keenan Britt and all those guys. But Jalen Taylor is going to be the next kind of like prolific receiver in that area. And why I run so hard for Oxford or any school in Calhoun County is that's where I'm from. Like that's really my area. Calhoun County, kind of like in that area where it got Oxford, Jacksonville, Anniston. Then you got Sachs, you got Piedmont, Welborn. You got so many programs that are elite level programs that don't get enough love. Piedmont was a program that they're on the cusp of being a great program once again because they won so many championships with their coach that is now at Westbrook Christian. But that whole area, my whole point is that whole area is littered with talent, and Jalen Taylor is going to be that next wave of elite level talent. I feel like that come out of that Calhoun County area. So he has no offers right now, but Louisville, like you said, like in your Stumper Grounds again, Louisville is on them hard, heavy. Auburn is kind of talking to him a little bit right now. UAB is in his backyard, so they're kind of interested, piquing interest with Jalen Taylor, and he's going to be a guy that he stepped up big time, not just in that Shays Valley game, but overall through the season with the connection with Mason Mims. So that connection is going to be one to watch as we kind of get in the midway point of the season. So those two guys from Oxford are a big part of the reason why Oxford has been successful on the offensive side of the ball.
Mark, we'll let you name any players you want to spotlight, but real quick, I'll set you up a little segue here because we've been wanting to talk about him. Me and you were giddy to see him make his debut, and his Highland Park Scots are 3-0. I'm talking about Buck Randall. We got to see him. CJ, you remember him from Texas F.
Yeah, I do.
So he's a sophomore, starting at quarterback for Highland Park. The last time the Scots started a sophomore quarterback, CJ, you might have heard of him, Matthew Stafford. So elite company there for Buck Randall, and he's made the most of his opportunity so far. 3 wins. Me and Mark watched him beat Rockwall Heath. They took down Lovejoy 24-17, and then a 23-point win over Dallas Jesuit on Friday, 43-20. So shout out Buck Randall. Keep doing your thing, man. It's been fun to watch you grow, and the journey's only beginning for you. So can't wait to see what he's able to do. Mark, go ahead and drop your standouts before we sign off.
Absolutely. Got to shout out to Buck Randall. I've been watching him for 3 weeks now, keeping my lazy eye on kind of what he's been doing. Buck's turning into a dual threat. He's been scoring touchdowns on the ground. His poise, and you guys know when you see Buck, he doesn't get rattled. You know what I'm saying? We've seen Texas Epic, on the 7-7 circuit go through some hellacious battles, championship battles. Shout out to Coach Don Smith. I call him the Don Father. He's a quarterback whisperer. And they've been waiting on this guy to get to Highland Park. And he's showing up. So when being kind of keeping connection or contact, and he hits me up and he's like, "Hey, guess what?" And I was like, "Okay," you know what I'm saying. So I made sure it happened to be a Thursday night game when they went and played, and I was like, "Man, I got to turn this on." And then I started to see social media pick up where, Highland Park's putting it out, Coach Don put it out, Texas Epic put it out. He's doing his thing. He's a big reason that those guys are 3-0. But if you know anything about Coach Randy Allen in Highland Park, they're one of the historic programs in the state of Texas. He's a Hall of Fame coach, and you got it. You hit the nail on the head. This is saying something that he doesn't start sophomore quarterbacks. It just doesn't happen. Highland Park's a place where quarterbacks are bred. You know what I'm saying? You could look at Chandler Morris, John Stephen Jones. Matthew Stafford is a Super Bowl champion, went on to Georgia and things like that. First round pick. Buck Randall is on his way. That's a name you need to know in the state of Texas as a sophomore, class 2027. Buck Randall's doing his thing. But before we get off, maybe not a player shout out, but probably a team. Shout out to South Oak Cliff for going into East Texas and beating Longview. If you've never been to a game in Longview, it's kind of like going down to Georgia playing between the hedges. It's a hostile environment. And you make the long trek down there on the road. They played the 2 top teams in the country, top 10 teams in the country in North Shore, and they played Duncanville in the first 2 weeks of the season. They were due. Carter Kopecki is a guy I wanted to talk about. He's the starting quarterback. He's a guy that really grew up in this particular game. He took a 70-yarder to the house. He had a couple of touchdowns passing. Also, Reggie McNeil Jr. was a guy that played well, and Damon Williams in the backfield. running back Morant. But that offensive line, if you know anything about South Oak Cliff, that's their mantra in the defense. It's physical play in the running game and stop defense. The game ended up being 45-44. Shout out to Longview, and they played well. But South Oak Cliff weathered the storm, and you could see the momentum building as I was watching this game. I was thinking, okay, what's going to happen? And it was back and forth. The Lobos would score, then South Oak Cliff was score. But if you know anything, South Oak Cliff is two-time state champions, three-time appearance. They lost in the state championship last year. This is what they do. That momentum starts about this time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason that they schedule these difficult games. Is so down the line they can go on the road and win these games. This year is going to be a chance for them to go on the road and win these games. This is the reason they scheduled this. And this team showed up. The wear and tear, around the state. If you look at the social media, they want to know, hey, what's going on with SOC. There's a never panic attitude. There's a never panic mantra that those guys as a coaching staff is in the community. And they pulled off a big win in East Texas on a Friday night. That's saying something. But Carter Kopecky stepped up, dual threat on the ground, big run in the third quarter to kind of break things open. And then he had a couple of big completions for touchdowns, especially the one over top to Reggie McNeil Jr. Reggie McNeil Jr. also had a one on the ground as well. I think the South Oak Cliff's going to be there at the end when you come to talk about winning state. And they proved it going into Longview and getting a 45-44 win. Shout out to Carter Kopecky on his performance.
All right, I love it. Big thanks to CJ Gilbert. Check him out on social media. Unlock Your Game. He just scratched the surface of all the coverage that he does in the state of Alabama today. So big thanks to CJ for joining us. You'll be seeing him on the sidelines at DR7 tournaments here in a couple months. But we've got more high school football to unravel. So we'll be back next week here on the channel on DR Sports with another episode of the Under the Lights podcast. Until then, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying our content, share it with your friends. Get it out there. Ben Spicer, Mark Henry, CJ Gilbert signing off here on episode 4 of the Under the Lights podcast. See you next time.